see such a large crowd. But it's so nice to see so many young people. It's the young people that are leading this. And it looks like it's had a good, healthy start. Of course, this is a non-violent revolution, but we do need changes. And I always am so happy to get out of Washington because I come and I meet you, and I actually get applause in Washington. I don't get that. All right, they don't even understand what I'm saying up there. Things are changing. Things are changing. We're making progress slowly, but the real progress is in the universities of this country, the young people of this country, even in the high schools. The young people are starting to realize what's really going on in this country and what a bad deal they're getting from an older generation, what's being dumped on you. So this is a real delight. A lot of people say that I've energized them and they've been encouraged. But the truth is, because there's been a good reception to the message of liberty, it really energizes me. So it's really a mutual effort here, and that is why I'm so pleased to come to the universities and see an enthusiastic crowd. But you know, I don't think I have to preach to you about our problems in Washington, but there was a recent program that everybody knows about, and it's being heralded as the solution to our economic crisis. And that's a program called Cash for, what is that? Can you believe it that they figure that, if you take some money, either steal it from somebody, borrow it from somebody, or just plain out print it, and pass it out, and still buy stuff, that people actually take it, and then they buy cars. And then they come back and they say, this last month, it's been good for business. It's been good for the car business. All this accelerated growth at the same time. Of course, that's just more distortion. It just gobbled up a few sales now that might have come next month. It might have been market-driven. And the whole program was designed to help the poor people. But the poor people didn't have any money, or they didn't want to take on more debt. They didn't do it. What we did to the poor people is we took the cars available to them and hurt their marketplace. So the whole thing is insane. Other than that, I think it's a great program. But you know what? It reminds me of what they did in the Depression. I was born during the Depression, but I don't remember it. I remember the tail end of it because I do remember World War II. But in the Depression, the Keynesians came into their time during that time that they said what we need to do, and it sort of sounds like we're doing now, we need to stimulate the economy by putting more money into the hands of people. And we had a much more agricultural community in the 30s, so they said, the farmers having a bad time, they can't pay their bills. If the farmers just had more money, everything would be okay. So the economy tumbles, unemployment skyrockets up to 25%, people are starving, and all kinds of problems. So what did they decide to do? They said, get more money into the pockets of the farmers. What we'll do is we'll tell them to plow their crops under, and the prices will go up and everything will be okay. The people are starving, so we plow the crops under. And that's what essentially is a similar program to this Cash for Clunkers program, as if this would solve our problem. But anyway, I want to thank the Economic Club for inviting me here, and certainly Walter for getting me here. He seemed to get a little bit of attention. He even got a couple laughs. That's pretty good. But it is a real delight to be here. I haven't been here for a few years. And not too many years ago, when the big hurricane hit here, quite a few people came from New Orleans. As a matter of fact, many medical students came into my district in Galveston. And Galveston took them in, but guess what? Last summer, Galveston was on the receiving end, and they're still struggling to get back on their feet again. But so far, so good this year. But we, as a people, have a lot of problems and a lot of concerns. Sometimes I'm amazed that most of my talk I mention and try to describe what the problems are and how we got there. And lo and behold, I'm very pleased that most people see me as an optimist. I truly am. But I think the real reason for that is you can't be optimistic if you're in denial. As long as we're in denial as a country and pretend that we can go on and on like this and everything is going to be okay, and it's not true, then people can become pessimistic over that. And I think that is what's happening right now. But you know, they're talking about the deficits and the budget. We hear about that every day. Last week they confessed, the administration confessed they made a mistake. It was a minor mistake. It was $2 trillion. They misjudged the national debt, the deficits over the next 10 years by $2 trillion. But they don't even know. They don't have the vaguest idea. They don't even know how much money's coming in next month. But all we know is that the spending will be more. That's what we do know. But in July is our most recent report on the budget. And in July, they took in a little over $150 billion. And they spent $330 billion. So they had a $180 billion deficit in 1 month. And that is continuing. And in the midst of all this, what are they proposing? What's the administration talking about? They're talking about $1 trillion or $2 or $3 trillion national health control plan. They don't have any money and they hardly blink an eye. And they're talking about expanding the war in the Middle East. We should do both things, not national health care, and start unwinding our wars around the world and start bringing our troops back home. This week there was an interesting article by George Will. I imagine many of you read that, and it was significant because he is a well-known writer. He is seen as a conservative, not locked into the neoconservative camp, but tries to be objective. And he wrote a pretty strong article explaining what he thought we ought to do in Afghanistan. Basically, it was to get out. And so this made some news, and he quoted de Gaulle on this, and he said that de Gaulle said that you have to know when to quit. When things are going badly, you have to know when to quit. And de Gaulle went through some of those things when he was president of France, and that's what we need. We need to know when to just stop. And of course, I've been saying all along, I haven't been just saying stop. I've been saying don't start it. We shouldn't have started all this stuff. And yet there's nobody wanting to put the brakes on. So we elect a president who says if he wants to slow up the war and bring the troops home. I mean, if you're reading the papers and if you read the internet and you look at something other than the propaganda, the war in Iraq is far from over. There's more killing now than there was 6 months ago. If you look at Afghanistan, that's supposed to be the good war. And that's the liberal war, and everybody's supposed to go along with it. And Obama's been a little bit more honest about that. He wants to, all along he said he wants to send more troops over there. So they're expanding that war. At the same time, they're bombing Pakistan. And you know, those who delight in the foreign policy we have, it says every Muslim over there is a terrorist and we have to kill them over there before they come over here. Every time I read the news, like today, there was a Predator missile that hit Pakistan and 16 people were killed. And they want you to believe that every single one of those individuals were plotting against the United States with a nuclear bomb. And the whole thing is when I see exactly the opposite. 16 more families now have a moral obligation to do harm to Americans because that is their obligation. So as long as we're over there, and as long as we're killing these people, and right now there's probably been 1 million Iraqis killed over there, and 3 or 4 million displaced. And how many we've lost? 4,300. We have 30,000 serious injuries and hundreds of thousands now applying for help, you know, for post-traumatic stress syndrome and brain injuries. And it goes on and on. And you know, I think it could have easily been prevented. Not so much to say that everybody who was against the war were right and the ones that wanted it were wrong, as much as to say it's the way we go to war that makes the difference. We haven't, gone to war as we did in World War II, and we haven't since then gone in a proper manner.